Here we go with some Unit 3, Lesson 12 homework help. Let's get started. Problem number 1 is going to reflect directly on our lesson today, talking about if a solution or if an ordered pair is a solution to a linear equation. Remember that a solution is going to make the equation true. So the solution is any ordered pair, x and y, that makes the equation true. So what we need to do with this is take each one of these ordered pairs and substitute the values in for x and y. So when we see 2 times x plus 3 times y equals 6, our job is to go through here and start adding these in. So in this case, I'd put in 0 here for x, 2 here for y. I would do the next one would be 2 times 0 plus 3 times 6 equals 6. And what I'm doing is I'm questioning, are each of these true or not? On the third one, I would have 2 times 2 plus 3 times 3 equals 6. And I have to continue to go through every single one of these, do this again and again and again to see if they're going to come out true. Now, what do we mean by true? Let's go ahead and talk about this first one again. 2 times 0 plus 3 times 2 equals 6. This 2 times 0 is 0. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 is equal to 6. I don't know why I put an equals or plus sign there. Sorry. But since 6 is equal to 6, this is a true statement. When we look at the next one and we say 2 times 0 plus 3 times 6 is equal to 6, we eliminate 2 times 0 and this becomes 18 equals 6. Well, that's a false statement. So this one right here is not a solution to the linear equation 2 times x plus 3 times y is equal to 6. Continue on for the other 4 and decide if those come out true or not. Problem 2 talks about a graph that's shown here that talks about the amount of comic books bought by Priya and how much money she has. So we see right here that Priya actually started out with some money. Something super important is that we recognize that all of the comic books cost the same price. I don't know why this isn't highlighting for me. So I'll use this one. All of the comic books cost the same price. That's a big deal because that tells us that there is a constant rate, which means that we do have a straight line. A couple things to pay attention to is our x and y intercept. Y-intercept, where the line crosses the y-axis, 0, 20. And then x-intercept crosses the x-axis at 5, 0. What do these 2 points tell us about? And it says Priya has how much before buying any comics and how much after buying 5 comics. Remember that buying before buying comics means that she hasn't bought any comics. But buying 5 comics, that's how many comic books we're talking about is 5 comics. And this one, the y-coordinate, is always talking about the money. Hopefully that'll be enough hints to be able to help you to know how to answer part A. Part B is talking about the slope. Remember, there's a couple different ways to talk about the slope. Since if we follow this line right here, this graph, there is nowhere on this graph that has nice integer points. So we're left to just these 2 ordered pairs of 0, 20 and 5, 0 to be able to find the slope. Whoops, not 500. And when we find that slope, we just want to take our numbers. 20 minus 0 minus 0 minus 5. And I get a slope that's 20 divided by -5 or -4. Now, what does that actually mean for our situation? Well, if that's the slope, then we can go ahead and choose that as the slope. The slope is -4. The amount of money left increases or decreases by how much every single comic book. I'm going to tell you that it decreases by 4 with every single comic book. This means that each comic book is right here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want you to recognize right here on this one. If I selected -4, what I would actually be doing is saying that a negative minus a negative, or subtracting a negative, is actually the same thing as adding. And so we would see in our equation plus $4 for every comic book. That means that she would actually be making money for every comic book she buys. That doesn't make sense. You can't make money when you're buying stuff, unless you're reselling stuff. So we have to be really careful about that piece and talk about that. I would remind you of this, that right here, since our x is right here, this is where our slope goes. And this would be where the y-intercept goes. Now, let's fix this so that it's correct. We need to be subtracting $4 per comic book. So if Priya buys 3 comic books, how much money will she have remaining? I suggest thinking about what I just said. If it's $4 per comic book, how much does 3 comic books cost? And then how much money would she have remaining? That beginning value minus that value of however many she bought. Okay. Next question 3 gives us another problem that talks about our inputs and our outputs, but it's a little different because we have these 3 situations that we have to work with. We have our 3 solutions that we have to work with. Sorry, not situations. We have 5 equations and 5 sets of solutions. Here's the deal. Plugging in the solutions has to make it true. Substituting just one may not be enough to find out whether it's true. I could just take one and throw it in there and hope that I'm right. Like this one, maybe I just throw it in there and let's see. Am I right? I don't know. So I have to use what we've been learning here in class to discuss, am I right? So when this is saying this, y is equal to 1 5/10 times x. Now you might be wondering, where did you get that from? Well, I took the first order pair right here, and I'm going to substitute this. So I'm saying 3 is equal to basically a half of 1 5/10. Is that a true statement? Absolutely not. Maybe I just made a mistake on this one. Maybe it would make more sense if I took the order pair 1 and 6. And I said 6 is equal to 1 5/10 times 1, making it 6 is equal to 1 5/10. No, that's false. So simply just guessing that these are the solutions here doesn't work. I could sit there and guess all day long, but that's going to take a lot of time. Instead, what I would do is I would take these order pairs just like what I did and test a couple of them to make sure that they actually work for the situation. When I go back through, this is going to take just a little bit of time. Hopefully you can kind of think about these on means of what's going to be the easiest ones. I think it would be easiest to start right here. X minus y equals 4. So I go ahead and I start looking at these and I start thinking, is 5/10 minus 3 equal to 4? No, that one equals negative 2.5. 1/8 minus 7/8, that one is going to be equal to negative 6/8. Negative 3 minus negative 7, that one equals 4. Okay, so I'm on a good start here. 0 minus negative 4, that one equals 4. Negative 1 minus negative 5, that one equals 4. Okay, I found one that works. So this one right here goes with this one right here. Okay, hopefully you're starting to get the idea right here. Maybe I try another one that should be kind of simple to look at and work with ones that are the simplest. I think if I take the opposite of something and add 1 to it, so the opposite of x, adding 1, that one should work to be able to get the next value. So when I start thinking about those pieces, I think about like this one right here. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0, not 6. That one's out. 1/8. So we think about the opposite values here. Negative 1/8 plus 7/8. Oops, I messed that one up. Plus 1 is equal to 7/8. That one works. Negative 1/2 plus 1 is equal to 1/2. That one works. Negative 1/4 plus 1 is equal to 3/4. Cool, I found another solution. So start from the easy and work to the little bit harder. Okay, hopefully that works out for you. Give those ones a shot. Next one is a review lesson, or goes back to review lesson 310, talking about a fuel container that's dispensing fuel. That's kind of an important word right there, dispensing fuel. So let's say that we have just a big tank that has some fuel in it, and I have like maybe just a little nozzle that's coming off at the end here that's hooked onto a hose that's connected into whatever. Okay, we have that fuel. If it's dispensing at a rate of 5 gallons per second, that means that we have fuel coming out of that hose. Which means if we have fuel coming out of that hose, that fuel has to be dropping in the tank. So then that question, when we're talking about this, maybe what we're talking about is we're filling up a big gas truck and how quickly that truck is getting filled up. There's a lot of pieces that we can talk about with this. Okay, but we have to recognize something on this as the slope will be what? Increasing or positive or negative. And what I want you to think about is the amount of fuel in the tank is doing what? If it's decreasing, what does that mean the slope is also doing? Okay. Get rid of my beautiful artwork here. Final question is, a sandwich store charges a delivery fee to bring lunch to an office building. That's kind of a big deal right there. Whoops, not that one. I love when my highlight works and I don't want it to. What we're talking about is there's a delivery fee, which means that we're not starting at 0-0. They paid $33 for 4 sandwiches, $8 for 61, or 8 sandwiches is $61. And then this says, how much does each turkey sandwich add to the cost? That means what's our slope? Because the slope is the cost per sandwich. And so when we take these values and we think about this, we think about the X and the Y, we said 4 sandwiches cost $33 and 8 sandwiches cost $61. Well, that was increasing by 4 sandwiches, and those 4 sandwiches cost us another $28. So $28 for 4 sandwiches equals our slope right there. Give it a roll. Hopefully this is helpful. Send me an email and let me know what I can do to help.